Okay, I think we might be live. Just connecting now, which I think we are. Go back to Zoom.
We are live.
I want to hit that record button, everybody that's waiting and watching. Let me just do that.
Actually, I'm going to send permission for record.
I can see it.
Unable to receive.
You're all right, mate. I've got it here. And then I'm going to let the participants Zoom come in. 13 people waiting. And I want to invite everybody. Waiting, admit all or invite?
Admit all.
All, isn't it? Joining.
There we go.
Excellent. Here we go. So everybody's connecting. So if you're watching this right now, I just want to say hello to everybody watching. If you just give us, 30 seconds for people to come in. If you're watching this on Zoom, you don't have to have your videos switched on. If you've seen Zoom before, switch your videos off if you want to. What I'll also do is I'm going to mute everybody so we don't get any interference throughout tonight's very exciting video. So let's just do a couple of things before we start. And surely we're going to probably get one or two more people that are going to want to join. Tracy's in the waiting room. Let's get her in. So obviously, if you're watching on Facebook, hello, good evening. Just give us literally less than a minute so we can get the admin side of things done. And then I will kind of make a start with tonight's talk, which is going to be amazing, by the way. So stay tuned. If you're watching this, go and grab yourself a drink of water while you're waiting. Get comfortable because it's going to be a great talk, everybody. All right. I've still got people wanting to come in. So I'm going to admit everybody in. Remember to mute your speakers, everybody, as well, please. And keep those muted for now. Mute all. It's a bit of a juggle. So we've got 20 on Zoom already, which is amazing because I know so many people were going to watch this back on replay. So well done. Welcome to everybody. As I say, we're going to give it another 30 seconds to a minute just to make sure there's no one else that wants to come and join in because Ollie has set this up and he's done an amazing job of setting it up where people come in and we have to accept them into the Zoom. So it takes a bit of time to do that. I'm going to mute everybody again because I see one or two have got their microphones on. We've still got a few people connecting, Ollie, mate. So we just hang fire a little bit longer. Right. I think I'm going to take it away any second. So remember, guys, you don't have to have your cameras on. You don't have to. If you're happy to have your cameras on, that's absolutely fine. But I am going to get started. So first of all, I want to say thank you very, very much for getting here this evening. Those of you that are watching this on Facebook, hello to you guys. What we want this evening is want as much interaction as possible. So if you're watching on Facebook, comment below if you're watching live by just giving us a big hello in the comments box. You can say anything you want. And if you're watching this back on replay, again, if you're on Facebook, pop the word replay in the comments box. So that way more people will get to see this amazing video because you're going to learn some new things tonight, which I'm really passionate about. So for those of people that don't know myself, most of you will know me from ATP fitness classes. But those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Philpot. My background is a group fitness trainer, personal trainer, and I've been working in the industry now for 13 years and I absolutely love it. I'm sure most of you know that. And here tonight with a very, very special guest, Ollie Matthews. If we just want to give everyone a wave that's on Zoom, Ollie, this guy is an absolute expert, all right? He knows so much about health. And you're going to get to hear from Ollie again in a minute or two. He's going to tell us a little bit more about himself, his background, and obviously tell us how he can help you guys with your health. Now, everybody that's watching has come and shown up for a reason. It might be because you want to take your health very, very seriously. You might be watching because you have a health issue right now, something that you're not happy with, you want to work on, and that's hopefully what you're going to get something from tonight that's going to help improve your current condition. Also, you might be watching, you're just a little bit intrigued, just to hear a little bit more about what we've got to say, if we can help you. And the most important thing is health is such a big subject. If we're not healthy, things aren't very good. Health is wealth. You've probably heard that saying before. Our body, it's the only shell we get to live in. So that is why it is so important for us to look after ourselves, take care. And again, this is why I brought Ollie on tonight to answer questions if you've got any questions, and give us a little bit more advice on how we can improve our health. So Ollie, I don't think I've missed anything, mate, to open up, but I'm going to hand it over to you now. Me and Ollie will be chatting tonight. Ollie will be talking, then I'll be talking. But Ollie, take it away, mate. Tell us a bit about yourself.
So I'm a Norwich lad as well, and I don't know why we haven't connected properly sooner. Like as we were saying, when we've been connected on social media for a long while, and we've been going back and forth with different comments saying we're going to grab a coffee, but everyone meets at the right time. Now, I started out in the health world of being this, well, actually in the unhealthy world of being this like morbidly obese guy that no confidence, like literally going to the end of my drive, I would need to grab my inhaler, and went down this route of losing a lot of weight and getting on the bodybuilding stage, doing personal training, all that sort of side of things. But it wasn't then like that my health really started. We'll go into a deeper reason as to why I do what I do, but I've come into the world of what we call functional medicine. So I've gone through the personal training world, worked with professional athletes, endurance athletes, and there's this whole world of kind of alternative medicine and allowing nutrition, allowing our body, our lifestyle interventions to actually heal itself from the inside out, looking at the body as one, from brain function, gut function, hormones, stress management, sleep, and all these different things. And to say that if one thing is dysfunctional, why is that? Rather than just taking a medicine for it, taking a pill to fix the headache when we're dehydrated. So we get into the full reason of why the body works the way it does. And apologies if you can hear my dogs outside. I don't know if Zoom's filtered that out or not, but they seem to be playing in the garden just as I started actually talking. So yeah, we're connected here because we want to go through kind of some of the mixed messages I think we get about health. And it's not to say that I know everything. I know a hell of a lot when it comes to health. That's my geek out area. I could literally talk about health for hours and hours on end. And I've been lucky enough to build my business to work with clients all over the world. Last year, I spoke in Colombia, in Miami a couple of times, multiple times in the UK, to be able to spread the message. And my passion, and we'll get into the reason why I do what I do in a little while, but my passion is to be able to just help people and feel like I'm making a difference. Like people talk about leaving a legacy, but there was actually a story. I live quite near the Rosary graveyard, and I was walking through there last summer actually, and there's a really, really old bit, and there's some graves there that are like 150 years old or 100 years old, and like even like 50-year-old graves that are totally overgrown. And it made me just think and step back that people say about leaving a legacy, but these graves that are probably 1 or 2 generations behind, they're not getting cared for. And why do we want to leave a legacy when we're gone, when we can do something while we're here? So the aim is to leave information that can really make a difference and to help people improve health. And we'll go through some different things on this call, some signs that the body is burning out and how you can actually see them. A lot of people will like just put it down to like when we're getting older, both male and female, like it's hormone issues, or like it's something like it's just aging. But actually we're speeding this up with the stress we're putting on our body, and what can we actually do with it? So that's kind of what we're going to look at today. And if you have questions as we're going through, pop questions in there. I think it's probably best to go back on the questions at the end maybe. But also we'll have something at the end that not something that's going to cost an arm and a leg, literally. Like we'll have something that you guys can actually benefit from, which is going out to subscribers of Matt's clients the first time. So we'll get to that in the future. So if you don't take anything on board or you want to know something deeper, ask the questions away. Chances are that even if you don't sign up to that group, there's a video on YouTube that I've done that we can point you in the right direction.
Sounds good, Ollie, mate. Thanks for the introduction there. So, yeah, I mean, as I say, if you don't have to ask questions tonight, but if you want to, you can. But Ollie, just tell us a little bit more, mate, because I think people would be interested to hear this about, people that you've worked with. Could you give us some examples with people that have had maybe a health issue, and you can tell kind of what you've done, how you've helped them? Because I think people would love to hear some examples.
I think the first thing is really on myself, why I'm here now. And my journey started literally, I didn't realize back when I was a kid, like my parents split up, my mum and dad, like my dad moved away. And it started to be that he was doing well in his job of caravan sales, and then become sales manager, and then become park manager. Like this job that we have nowadays of providing for our family. And we look at this provision for our family, which is money, like we're going to be there, but we don't realize necessarily taking this step back as to how much it's actually impacting our health. And he used to get migraines. He ended up moving to Wheelie Bridge and then Colchester, and we ended up being able to like see him some weekends, school holidays. So we saw him on the occasion because he was providing for his family, getting stressed out, sleepless nights. And if I look back now, I could probably pick out 10, 15, 20 signs that he was stressed out. But I didn't have the knowledge I did then, and I was 15 years old. So he went out on a course in Grantham, and then got hit around the head with a volleyball and ended up getting a migraine then, which then put him into hospital, and he had a stroke. So on the Monday, he texted me, and ironically, his last message to me was, "Did you get your money?" Back in the day when we'd send cash through the post. On the Saturday, he passed away at 47 years old. And I still, to this day, I know that if stress had been controlled, then his body would have been able to get through that period. And so I was then going away, and as you do growing up as a teenager, started like emotional eating, started DJing and doing all music stuff and going through music college. I then found fitness. And this is where like the story of my story isn't really a ridiculously short one. So apologies for taking a while to tell it, but I was about 100 pounds overweight, and I decided to get in shape, and I started training. It was at Wenton Valley, then became a fitness instructor at Ramada, and then went to actually work at Wenton Valley, and I competed in bodybuilding. But I thought that building a body of muscle would give me confidence. But there was this inner confidence where I hadn't done the work up in my head. It made me more kind of vulnerable to having a low confidence. So I would then be so obsessed, so obsessed with eating everything clean, eating everything that was weighed out, not having any cheat meals, not having a life, literally not having a life unless it was the gym, going to work and all these different things. And that was very, very obsessive. And if I did fall off and start binge eating, I would end up diagnosed with exercise bulimia. And it was a very, very kind of lonely place to be in, that my only friends were the friends in the gym. And like, I was working at some big insurance company that everyone's worked for a lot of the time in Norwich. And I would literally get up, go do my cardio, go to work, come back, do some more cardio, do a PT session, do some gym work, and then go to sleep. That was what my life was. And then I'm getting repeated. Do some gym work, and then go to sleep.
Someone's got their microphone on. Bear with me.
Put mute all, and then I'll unmute myself.
I've muted them. You're all right again now, Ollie. Carry on, mate.
As well has got her mic unmuted. But anyway,
done it.
I then ended up got a management role. It was great because you think you're going to make a career. And actually what happened was I lost my first secondment due to budget cuts, and thought, okay, well, these things happen. And like, I'll just work my way up again. I got another secondment in pensions, and ended up that 2 months after I started there, they sent the whole department offshore, and we had to train them to go offshore. Everyone was getting made redundant, but I was losing my secondment. So in a way, I was lucky that I wasn't losing my job. I was going back to my old position, but the psychological impact, I was then having anxiety attacks. different panic attacks. Like I couldn't go near the Horizon Business Center. Like I'd drive past and I would feel really, really anxious, like thinking about going back there. And that's when I realized I had like 2-3 months off work that I had to get back into full-time fitness. And I started doing PT, started working with people like and helping them, and realized that how much this was a big part of my life. And left there in 2014. So I've been doing this since 2006 on and off, and then 2014 was full time. But I kind of fell into working with endurance athletes. And I was working with someone in the Rio Olympics, someone that had just been in the Tour de France and the World Cycling Championships, like world champions on their nutrition. But something wasn't fulfilling me with that. It was that I was going from A to B as fast as possible. My goal was to get them to the finish line quickly with an afterthought of health. So I started working with a couple of people that entrepreneurs, and lucky enough to still have one of them as a client today. And one of these guys, he messaged me and said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I know what to do. I need you to tell me to do it. So I ended up 2 hours later on a phone call with him. He signed up for me. Now, 3 months later, I'm at his house in Nashville, and we're working on a thing called a musician's health course. Now, this was Taylor Swift's manager. And first off thinking, why is he messaging me? It's Taylor Swift's manager when like she launched her career, when Kanye West jumped on the stage, when she got her superstar status. And his goal was to give his wife back what she married 10 years ago. Now I'm standing there. It was January in Nashville. I think it was like 2017 or something. And he said, look, his wife Jill was there, his son, 13-year-old son, 15-year-old daughter. And he said, look, Ollie, you've given Jill back what she married 10 years ago. And like, I get goosebumps now because like his son and daughter being there, I couldn't help my dad, but I can help as many parents as I can try to help people not die from stress. And it went on from there, where that was when I dived into helping him deal with stress, not through personal training or just nutrition, but looking at nutrition and how it can heal us from things like putting autoimmune conditions into remission. Like my wife had rheumatoid arthritis, and we worked on nutrition with her to deal with stress, to know that she's not had to have methotrexate since 2015. And you think that's powerful when the doctors have said she's going to be on that for the rest of her life. I had a client that now she's doing her own thing, like, and she's learned a lot to bear. And this is my goal. Like, yes, I've got someone like my client Ron, who'd been a client and still is a client now from 2015, but we have different goal after goal after goal. But my goal is to get someone to a sustainable place where they can go and do this on their own. So I had this client who epileptic and suffered with severe migraines and insomnia. And she was on 6 medications for epilepsy. We got her down to 2 medications. Now, this isn't me saying I'm getting you to stop your medications. I'm a functional medicine practitioner, but we have to still work in with doctors. If someone's on medications, it's not my place to say stop it. Like, if your doctor says it's okay, we can try that, you get medical support with it. But we've seen things that doctors in like the Western medicine world haven't been able to kind of explain when they've given people conditions for life that actually are being reversed. We've had people with thyroid. My own thyroid was underactive, and when I was in my mid-20s, and we managed to reverse that side of things. When we look at what is actually causing what is going on in the body and the root cause, like with people with a lot of thyroid problems, that's an outcome. The thyroid has to have signals sent to it from different areas in our brain. So if we've got inflammation and stress going on, those signals don't get there at the right time, and they get mixed messages sent. So, and that's taking a lot of science out of it, and I can go into it a little bit more depth, but the outcome is maybe high thyroid hormone comes out, low thyroid hormone, conversion of thyroid hormone in the gut is off, all these different things. But recently I've had like 2 people in the last month that have said, like, one of them couldn't sleep through the night for 20 years. Another one was like 4 or 5 years. So it wasn't quite as extreme. Waking up 4 or 5 times a night. We got her down to 1 time a night, just waking up. And then now she sleeps through very regularly. And she said, like, I've had sleeping medication. I've been to different sleep experts. And it was because we were looking at stress, perception of stress, what food's been doing to her body, and what her routine has been like. This isn't, ironically, an overnight thing, but when we look and we're honest with how long these things take, that if we think about our body, I'm 37 next month, like, anything that's happened to my body now has happened from the day I was born, even before I was born. Like my mum's health before I was born, and then her parents' health, all these, like when we look at transgenerational nutrition, all these things get taken into account, especially when we look at stress. And we look at stress, there's studies that show survivors of Auschwitz, their grandchildren still have trauma symptoms in their body. When we look at their hormonal status and things like that, children from people that survived 9/11 have severe trauma still going on in their body that weren't alive when this trauma happened. So when we start to look at the body overall, we start to be able to say, hang on a second, like looking at health now as a snapshot is great, but these are a symptom based on what's gone on beforehand. So we have to look deeper into what's going on. And I would say the biggest thing that people improve, we've got brain fog, but the waking during the night is one of the most common things. And if we can improve sleep, we start to balance so many things like hormones, thyroid, sex hormones, like we start to improve bloating. And like one of the things that we have is that I put a post out, I think it was last week, talking about men and women are different. We know that, but like when it comes to stress, women get impacted by stress more than guys, because us guys, like we get 95% of our sex hormones, like the hormones that we usually have, like the testosterone side of things, from the testicles. But actually 5% comes from the adrenals. With women, 30% of their sex hormones come from their adrenals. Women also need a little bit more sleep than men, which when we look in a world where there's so much stress coming along, it's no wonder that I'm seeing people that have been on HRT not seeing results, but actually their hormone imbalances weren't because of an output in their ovaries. It was an output that was actually coming from their adrenals. So it's looking at what is going on with stress. I think they're massive, massive things. Also blood glucose management, big thing. That's why we connected it in the first place, to chat about blood glucose management. But I've recently had a woman, I was chatting to her today actually, that her doctor, when she first came to me, she was diagnosed pre-diabetic. And a week later, her doctor told her, you're type 2 diabetic now. And she said, can you just wait? I was just speaking to someone, I'm going to sign up with him. And I'm not the miracle. I'm just helping people like with a bit of a passion to get their body to work with themselves. I don't want to appear big-headed about this stuff. It's just, I love doing this stuff. So she's been focusing on how she's getting to sleep. She's been focusing on some meditation, some techniques to help manage with stress. And what we look at her glucose levels, now she's in the US, so they're different than the UK. In the UK, we want our glucose to be like 4.2 to 4.9 fasting in an ideal world. And before, when we get up regularly, at least under 5.5. Now, in the US, that would be between 80 and 90, or at least under 100. Her glucose was 150, which is well up to where we want it to be. Now we've got her down into the mid 110. So I think it was 112 within 6 weeks. And the doctors basically said, like, how are you doing this? Because now you don't need the metformin, you don't need to get any medication going on. And she's able to really improve her health, like, so much.
We've got a question, Ollie. Is that all right for you to take a question, mate? Someone's got their hand up. I've got Samsung SMX 200. I haven't got a name on there, but you're more than welcome to unmute yourself and talk if you want to. Unless it was an accident.
It's waving.
No, there's definitely a hand on there. No.
I don't know how to get rid of the hand, unless it was just like...
No, I don't, mate. No worries.
Put it in the chat if you do have a question. And
yeah, that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. No, Ollie, everything you said so far is brilliant, mate. I think it's really nice to hear about, before obviously giving more information, your background, how you've helped people. The thing is, we've obviously, everyone that's watching tonight will probably have something along the lines of, could it be brain fog? Could it be issues, hormonal imbalances? Maybe people watching don't know how to fuel their body, before an exercise class, after a workout. things like that. So what we're here to do is to hopefully give you some advice to get that right balance in life. All right. And that is what the most important thing is. I want to touch on something that you said earlier a little while ago, that if we're not feeling well, we go to the doctor and we get advice. And the problem with medication, again, I'm not trying to say come off medication, but the problem we have with just going for medication is medication can cause side effects. So weight gain, it can cause stress. That is obviously right, isn't it, Ollie? Do correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
And you know, a medication can be a form of a toxin. So what we want to do is we want to give you some natural ways of how you can implement natural ways into your lifestyle to as you would always say, Ollie, thrive, you know, feel your best. So that's kind of what we're here to do. And as I say, we'll all have our issues. I mean, myself, I do 18 fitness classes a week, which is excessive. And I often find that, you know, after a day of classes, I'm reaching to the fridge for the wrong things, you know, maybe a block of cheese, a piece of ham because it's quick, maybe a bag of crisps. And I know that if I'm fueling my body with the wrong things, the next day when I wake up, I'm going to have possibly that brain fog. I'm going to feel tired. So it's all about giving your body what it needs. And it's not just the eating, it's the stress side. Ollie will talk about cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So it's kind of getting the whole package. I don't know if you want to elaborate on what I've just said, Ollie.
Yeah, I think there's no disease really that it hasn't been linked to stress in one form, stress on our body. But we don't understand how much stress is actually getting thrown at us. Physical stress and emotional stress, and why we have cravings, like why we constantly crave these carbohydrates that are one of the things which will instantly lower cortisol, but then quickly lower it, then kick it back up again, because then we need more of them and we start craving. But there are some big signs, I feel, that the body is burning out, overly stressed, massively chronically fatigued, whatever we want to call it. And I've got a list here that I'll go through because there's a few and I always forget them if I go through it, but we've got waking during the night. When you go to bed, you're actually wired. So many people will feel tired, go to bed, then suddenly their head hits the pillow and then there's just anxiety that comes out. I've got to do this, and that. And you need to write everything down. And then you just literally have a second wind. Having energy dips in the afternoon. These things are so common that we put them down as normal. And we have to realize that just because something is common does not make it normal. We should be able to go through the night without going to the toilet. We should be able to go to bed and not be wide awake. We should be able to get through the afternoon. Naturally, our body clock will have a tiny dip, but it shouldn't be very noticeable. One of the things that I see a lot of times working with people in their 40s and 50s is stress is then impacting their memory and then going into the 60s as well. And we're forgetting random things. So even at times when I spoke to clients about it and we laugh and joke about it, like, oh, it's just growing up, it's just getting older. These things like walking around, you're wondering where your phone is and you're actually looking at your phone, scrolling through Facebook. Or you go to, where are my sunglasses? And they're actually on our head. And like we walk into a room and you cannot remember why you've actually walked in there. And there's signs that, I mean, there's 7 stages of dementia based on stress. And it's around sort of 4 or 5 where people then end up really start to be diagnosed. But a lot of people are already in stage 2 and 3 with cognitive decline, as we want to put the clinical term to it, before they actually then start doing things about it. Like it's very hard to go backwards if possible at all. We can only really slow down what's going forwards. And things like weight problems, like if we can't lose weight, we're putting a lot of stress on our body. However, if our body isn't able to detox effectively, and we're not selling you like this 7-day detox protocol or anything like that. We're not going to start selling that stuff. But if someone isn't able to detox and they start trying to lose weight, now with women, that essentially like stage 3 detoxification is a lot harder to do than with guys. And we have 4 stages and 0, 1, 2, 3, where basically stage 3 is getting rid of the toxins. And if we don't get rid of them by either like excreting them, sweating them out, crying them out, breathing, like then they're going to get transferred around the body again and then get uptaken again and start doing more damage. And if we try and lose weight, which being in this calorie deficit, eating less than we burn, then we actually upregulate detoxification. But if we can't get rid of it, it's basically taking one toxin from one arm, putting it back on the other arm, and it's doing more damage as a result. If you're constantly getting sick, if you're constantly getting brain fog, migraines, headaches, if you're randomly getting bloated as well, like that's a big thing, like showing that the body is off, like something's not right. And one of the frustrations I've had over the years is looking at different influences, and it's come up multiple times in the last couple of years where people are saying it's normal to be bloated. Not, it is not normal. Yes, there will be differences. When I think someone said, do they need to be let in? There will be differences, like going through the time of the month, and like actually like going through periods where there will be a little bit more proneness to being bloated and more water retention. Yes, I get that. But if you're having oats in the morning and then suddenly it looks like you're 6 months pregnant, that is not a normal reaction of the body. It's showing, the body's showing you that something is going on that I do not like, and it's causing inflammation. Now, if something does that when you have a lot of it, chances are it's doing it when we have a little bit. Then we have cold hands and feet. If people constantly get cold hands and feet, cold nose, that's a sign that there's a lot of stress. Cravings, being irritable, having a low sex drive. And also one of the big things is like getting hangry and food changing the way you feel. Like if you go for hours without eating and then suddenly you want to like chop off your husband or wife's head or something, then that's not a good thing. Like we should, like food shouldn't change. Like we shouldn't suddenly eat and then feel energized. It gives us energy in the form of calories, but it shouldn't make us feel tired. It shouldn't make us feel energized. And these signs of the body just being overly stressed. Now, look at what's stressing us out. We have physical stress. So there's the stress from exercise. If we're not fueling for it correctly, that can be exacerbated on the body. But there's a stress from our day-to-day, like going to the workplace, family stress, like looking after kids. Then there's pollutants, so detox fumes. There's like in the county that we live in, Norfolk, it's very low air quality because of the farming, like all the toxins and the herb pesticides and things that are used. But also, one of the things that is underestimated a lot is mold in the house and how much that impacts our body. People just wipe it with a little bit of disinfectant, but it's still there, and like we're actually still getting the mold into our lungs and saturated into our skin. So we see a lot of issues from that stress. But then we look
on the
at
cleaning bender now, mate. They'll all be going on cleaning benders after this video.
But we also got we've got emotional stress as well. And I think this is the most underestimated stress. And it's relationship stress. It's financial stress. It's like just trauma from like years and years and years ago, that sort of thing, like that is still coming up and we still got to deal with. And then we get people that like saying, don't stress. Like my mum, I think my mum's on here somewhere, but she would tell me like, just don't stress. Like, well, that actually makes me a bit more stressed. Like when people tell you not to stress, you end up stressing more. So when people tell you don't think of the pink elephant or something like that, you start thinking about the pink elephant. But it's seeing these stresses. So someone's asked here, like Jeanette has asked, is there a wrong way to eat and what? Too much of one thing and not of other foods. Now, I'm not someone that will box every single person into one specific diet. Like there's not going to be eat all vegan, eat ketogenic diet, all intermittent fast. It's looking at someone to see what their body is doing. But what I do feel people should be doing is eating to manage their blood glucose levels. If we're having, and the basic way we could do that, and looking at thousands of food diaries over the last, like since 2006, it's probably more than thousands, probably like so many food diaries that I've looked at, protein is the most underestimated nutrient, macronutrient that people don't get or understand. Because we see a lot of times protein is linked with muscle building, but protein is linked with repairing cells, repairing tissues, and allowing your body to actually start to build itself again. And if we don't get enough of that in, chances are we're getting carbohydrates as an issue. or carbohydrates that are high. Now, I'm not demonizing carbs. It's having them at the right times. And if you've got good blood glucose management, you can get away with carbohydrates on their own. But if you've got any of the signs that were said, waking during the night, energy dips, brain fog, sex drive drop, and irritability, cravings, these things, then really, really focus on getting a good amount of protein, whether that's some meat, whether that's some eggs, some fish, some nuts, some seeds, those sorts of things, or a shake. Like protein shakes aren't just for muscle building. They're a convenience of being able to get extra protein in. So it's getting these things in that are going to help you boost your protein levels. And I think like a wrong way to eat is highly, highly processed diet. So loads of food that has got multiple ingredients in it. And that food that doesn't go off is very bad. However, allow yourself some leeway. Like you get to your body to like a good sustainable state, then enjoy certain foods every now and then. Now, the problem is that sometimes it's hard to get our body to that sustainable state. We have to be in an unsustainable method to get our body to a level of sustainability that we can then go out and enjoy McDonald's every now and then, or have a Chinese takeaway. Now, myself, I can't have gluten. If I have gluten, I get migraines. So I stay 100% away from gluten. And so that's a wrong way to eat for me. Now, like with you, you might be fine with gluten. So that's not a wrong way to eat for you. So it's not to demonize gluten. If people have autoimmune conditions, gluten is a wrong way to eat, because if you eat gluten, it's massively linked with flare-ups of autoimmune conditions. Too much of one thing and not enough of other foods. Again, a balanced diet.
Just to butt in, Ollie, sorry, mate. You can test blood sugar, can't you, in glucose management? Because I know you mentioned that to me before. You have a tool. I don't know if you want to just expand on that a tiny little bit, because that's a really interesting one. When we had our coffee, I know you were talking about that.
So there's a couple of ways. There's a thing called HbA1c, which a doctor will test, which is more of a marker of what your glucose is over time, which is a more accurate as such marker of long-term glucose management. But we can test this stuff at home. So you can get a glucometer and you can get a finger prick one, a Bluetooth one or a normal one, and they're about £20, and then testing strips and stuff. You prick your finger and you can see where your glucose is at. And what's very interesting is to see what happens around meals. So 20 minutes before, 20 minutes after, where is my glucose before? What happens when I eat this meal? Does it spike up a lot? And does it come back normal? And another way of doing it is a constant glucose monitor, which is so much more convenient, but it's more expensive. I think they're about £50 for 2 weeks. But you put a sensor on your arm called a Freestyle Libre. I don't know any other brands that do it here in the UK yet. You put it on your arm, and then you scan it with your phone, and it keeps 8 hours of data there that you can then see what's your glucose doing during the day. And that's super, super powerful if you're waking through the night, because what happens during the night, and this is why we do wake up and usually need to go to the toilet, is that it's poor blood glucose management. Now, when we have poor blood glucose management, just to get into that sort of thing, is that we have foods and there's an insulin spike, which grabs the sugar from these foods and pulls it into the cells, or takes it to the muscles where like it gets stored. Now, if we've got problems with creating the insulin, high levels of stress, too much glucose, it gets worn out, and a thing called insulin resistance happens, that doesn't do its job properly. Now, what happens is if too much goes in and blood sugar goes high, we release too much insulin, we then go this high blood sugar, insulin gets released, then it goes low. And then the stress hormone cortisol, its main job is to boost glucose. And we need glucose to fuel our brain. All our other organs will be able to store glucose, but our brain needs a constant supply. So when it's low, we kick up cortisol to fuel our brain. If not, we won't survive, because we need our brain to live. And this is the same when we go to sleep. If we imagine our bodies like a big airport, imagine Heathrow Airport. And Heathrow, planes coming and going that every 2-3 minutes during the day. It's just crazy. And that's like our body. So many processes going on. New tissues being built, a little bit of detoxification, thoughts going in, speaking, movement, going to the toilet, all these things, thinking, brain function. Then in the evening, when we go to sleep, we have some of the most important things happen for our body. If you think about Heathrow Airport in the nighttime, if you can't repair the runways, get the lights replaced, the bulbs replaced, if you can't get rid of the rubbish there, if you can't do all the repairs and the admin work, that airport is not going to function. And our bodies have this during the night with detoxification, with building new cells, with improving our neurological function, our brain function. And when we get stressed out, when this glucose drops and we boost our cortisol levels, we keep waking up and break these processes. So what happens is we're going through the night, we have this drop in glucose, cortisol kicks up, and we get a high blood glucose. It does this first thing in the morning because we need cortisol to wake us up. And a lot of people who wake up and they're really, really tired in the mornings and need to rush for that caffeine, then actually that it's a sign that you're not actually producing cortisol effectively. So that's actually another stage of potential burnout, which is a little bit further down the line. And that, again, like we can talk about caffeine if you want, like as to like what it can. I have caffeine. So again, I'm not demonizing caffeine, but it's when we rely on caffeine to keep us going, that's when it started to, like, regularly, that's when we start to realize that it can be detrimental to our health. Mm. So where are we on this, on the list?
I think it's really good, everything you've said, mate. I think coming back to glucose management, food, just in a nutshell, really, food can cause stress. You know, if you're not fueling your body with the correct nutrients, you're not getting a balance of the right nutrients, your body can become stressed. And I think many of us out there are responsible for having stress from what we eat because we're not educated. You know, we don't get taught at school, you know, a nutrition course. We don't get taught all these things. And, you know, most of us lead very busy lifestyles, you know, kids, work, managing a home. And what do? Sometimes we skip meals, we reach for the quickest thing to eat to keep us going. And that is not the right way to live. So I think there are ways that, you know, myself and Ollie can help you get the right nutrients and give you that advice to kind of control your blood sugar, you know, prevent you having that spike. And another thing about blood sugar as well, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ollie, when we get that spike of blood sugar, when the body comes down, we get the slump, that is when your body is most likely to store the fat. All right. I remember learning that course. So trying to go for foods that, you know, regulate blood sugar and keep your blood sugar at a steady level rather than going for the high, you know, glycemic index is probably another thing you could talk about, which is kind of what you've been saying. That's another thing. So I think what me and Ollie are saying is, you know, if you work on what you eat, your sleeping patterns, there's so much controlling your stress. There are so much, and you have. Go on, mate. Sorry.
I think it's easy said than done with controlling stress, but one of the things 100%. That, like, I've got ADHD, and I'm on the spectrum of autism. Now, when I manage my glucose levels, I don't have any medication for controlling this stuff. I manage it by managing my glucose levels. Now, if I eat rubbish, so say Christmas comes along, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and then I'm ready to get back on it. I feel so rubbish after that. But I'm like, every year I'll do it. And then next year I say I'm not going to do it as much, but I will. But that day after, I cannot concentrate at all. I can hardly hold a conversation. And it's knowing inside myself that, why is this? All these toxins and all this like rich food I put into my body that it's not used to. And then if I test my glucose, it would be sky high. That it's really, really stressful on the body. Now, like, I see so many people that have ADHD and ADD, and it's different, like lack of dopamine or too much dopamine, and we're getting these cravings, and like it's very, very common nowadays for people to have it. It wouldn't surprise me if there's people here on the call that's got it as well. But if like the doctor's prescribing different things like modafinil to have it, which is all good, but what about actually when we look at getting the right fuel in? Like if you've got this supercharged Lamborghini or whatever, like the sports car, like down the line is, like whatever, like the supercar is, you're not going to put the cheapest fuel in it. Now, we do have, like, I know that budget is a concern for some people. And when we look at fruit and vegetables, we have to get fruit and vegetables in. We don't want to get the veg that has had all loads of toxins put on it. So every year, and if you Google, you'll be able to find it because it's on various different websites. There's a list published called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So if you're going to pick veggies that are organic,
write that down, everybody.
yeah,
Write that down.
pick the veggies on the Dirty Dozen that are the ones which are going to be the least impactful. But get loads of different veg in there. And the Clean 15 are the ones that we really don't have to worry about. They're usually things like, most of the time, things like bananas, avocados that have got these thick skins on that the pesticides don't really get in there. But they change every year. So it has been published this year. I think it was like February it was published. But it's surprising when we see these. Actually, if we're on a budget, just pick these, like fight your battles where they are. But I think someone else, how much protein do we need to eat today? Is it too much fiber, fruit and veg bad for IBS? Like it can be, but also like, see, a lot of times we see people have more fiber. And it seems to be this answer. If people aren't going to the toilet, have more fiber. If you've got IBS, chances are like you're not keeping it in there a lot. But it's what is flaring up that stomach lining is the way I look at it. Like what is the inflammation which is triggering? Now, IBS is so many different things which has kind of like been just put into one area. So what is the specific thing which is triggering you to have this flare up? And usually it's stress. Now, what can we do to manage this stress? I say usually it's stress. It's always going to be stress because whether it's stress coming from foods, whether it's stress coming from our mind, there are so many coping techniques that I teach in my groups about vagal toning. We have a nerve from our brainstem down to our gut and other organs called the vagus nerve, which is Latin for wanderer. And this sends messages, so down to our gut and other organs, and then send messages back to the brain. So if we've got poor gut communication or gut health, we're not going to get good messages and dopamine sent to the brain, like the feel good, the motivational neurotransmitters, the serotonin, and we're going to have issues there. So actually working on vagal tone helps a lot. And there's different videos on YouTube. I've got some videos that I give to my clients with some different vagus nerve resets. But if we look at the gut, again, just like I said with the thyroid, gut bloating and problems with the gut is an outcome. Where has that started? So we look at a top-down approach. We start to go up through the digestive system. And then we start to look at, well, are they getting acid reflux? Yes, maybe. Well, if they are, chances are the doctors have said that's high acid, high stomach acid, when actually it's low. Like 99.99% of the time when we have reflux, it's because we've not got enough stomach acid. Protein isn't able to be broken down effectively, and it's basically putrefying in the bottom of the stomach. But then people are having lansoprazole and like different like heartburn tablets and things to lower it when it's already low. And as a result, it makes things worse, and then we get issues with hormones. So it could be a stomach acid problem. But then we go even further up. And are they chewing their food enough? We need to break down our food, which then stimulates digestive enzymes in the mouth to start breaking down the food. Even more, are they producing enough saliva? So if you're having to excessively chew your food, or you're a slow eater, then are we producing enough saliva? And if not, why not? And that's when we get to the first part of digestion, which is a thing called mastication. Make sure you say that right. But it's basically when, like, if anyone knows The Simpsons here and can remember Homer Simpson when he has a donut and he's like, donuts, and he starts drooling. It's when our brain thinks of food. Like if I said to people here, like, think of the smell of going into a bakery and there's this freshly baked bread, and you go in and then there's some chocolate there as well, and you can smell the hot chocolate, and you smell all these different foods. You start salivating. And that's mastication. That's where we start the digestive process. Now, if we're overly stressed and we have a lot of inflammation going in our brain, we don't really get that same digestion starting. So it's looking at where are these perceptions of stress and different techniques to improve them. There are so many out there that we can actually usually improve health before we change what people eat, which is powerful.
I think sorry to interrupt, gut health is so important, isn't it? Because like you say, if your gut's not healthy, you're going to be suffering mentally. I mean, a question for everybody. I mean, obviously, I know some people are watching on Facebook, and if you are watching on Facebook, you can do this. How many people are suffering from brain fog? You know, whether that be daily, whether that be, I don't know. But if you are watching on Facebook, you can leave a comment. If you've got your video on, you can put your hand up. Obviously, I know some people haven't got their videos on, but I want you to think about that. And if you are suffering from brain fog, there are things that you can do to help. Some of the things that we've said tonight, and obviously we can go into more detail about these things that we're talking about tonight in more detail, can't we, Ollie?
Yeah, I think one of the things that when we talk about brain fog, is someone mentioned about it in the messenger, I think beforehand, talking about is that because of menopause and like going through those sorts of things, or need an HRT or have an HRT. And like, absolutely, it could be. Most of the time, though, is that people's adrenals should be able to function. Their adrenaline function should be able to produce, as I've said, with women having 30% of their sex hormones coming from adrenals, should still be able to produce enough progesterone and estrogen to function effectively when it comes to menopause without the need of HRT. So when we're seeing people that are having HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and I've done like a massive video on this, it's something I cover a lot, and they're not getting the results, that's telling me that it wasn't the hormones that we needed to look at, and we need to look at before then the brain function as well. Because we have a thing in our brain called our hypothalamus. And as I said, that sends a signal to another thing, your pituitary gland, which will send a signal to the ovaries for the ovarian axis, but also the thyroid, your adrenals. So it's like, here's this control panel, this hypothalamus sending to the pituitary, tell him to release this, this, and that. And then it goes to release that. Stress will mess that signal up a lot, because it should have this feedback loop, especially in the adrenal ones, to say, we've got enough now, we need to stop. But when stress comes along and there's too much cortisol, that screws that up. So we can't actually produce like the right signaling methods. So as I say, like, I'm trying not to go into too much like depth and baffle people, but we can massively, massively improve them. Like when we look at how much protein do we need a day, I would look at, so we look at ideal body weight, and I don't go on like BMI very often. We look at ideal body weight, and we look at around like a gram per pound of ideal body weight is a perfect place to roughly be at. But it might seem excessive. When we look at burns victims who have severe need for repairing tissue, so if we think the skin is an organ and we need to repair that and we need protein to repair that, they're having a little less. But we're not using muscle protein just for repairing. We're using it for also balancing glucose as well. So like it keeps people fuller for longer. But remember, like your ideal body weight, like if you Google like ideal body weight calculator, it's what people will use in hospitals before they give you like any like general anesthetic and stuff. Because if someone's really, really overweight, they don't want to give enough anesthetic for someone of that actual weight. They need to give them what their ideal body weight is. If not, there could be a lot of damage. So looking at your ideal body weight and look at that is a guideline amount. Now, if you're starting to get wind, starting to like literally pass wind a lot, you want to lower it a bit. So it's everyone's a little bit different, but that's a good marker of where to be at.
Yeah, very good, Ollie. I mean, is there anything else that we haven't covered? I'm just trying to think of anything important. I mean, obviously we've spoken the importance of, food, sleep, obviously how stress can impact our health. And like I say, we can help you go deeper into these things. to help, get you to a point where you can manage your life and feel a whole lot better, minimizing brain fog, obviously having more energy at a fitness class. Obviously better recovery, sleeping better. There's so much that we can dive into. But
Jeanette's mentioned about have a terrible sweet tooth. That glucose management will help it a lot. But we also don't want to underestimate emotional eating. Like every single person will emotionally eat at some point. And I used to do it a lot, but it's realizing why we emotionally eat. And I work with a lot of people on emotional eating, and it's looking at the psychology of it. And I had a woman who her kids were at UEA, and one of them had a heart attack. He's fine right now. It's been a few years, but she used to get massive cravings for chocolate. She'd have loads of chocolate. She couldn't really have it in the house. And she wondered why. And we spoke about it. And I do an exercise with people where we go in and we have the food and we think about the texture of the food, the taste of the food, the smell of the food, and the emotional connection there. And her grandparents used to give it to her as a kid on a Friday night. So she felt safe. It was them nurturing her, like feeling safe, having that chocolate. Now, she used to give that to her kids as they were growing up. It was how she would mother them and give them treats. And then what actually happened was when they were off at uni, she lived in like Cromer area. When they were off at uni, it ended up that she was missing them. So she'd have this chocolate to feel close to them without realizing it. When she could have called them or gone and grabbed a coffee with them or something like that, met them halfway. Her job was at the UEA as well, but she was working from home at that point. So it's finding out what these triggers are and then actually diving into it and being open to it. Like I used to have a really bad craving for crisps. Now, when I used to have my dad come down and I'd be around my nans, we'd stay there, we'd watch Match of the Day on a Saturday night and have like a 6-pack of crisps. Like no wonder I was overweight as a kid. But like that Match of the Day theme tune was like Pavlov's dog, where as soon as that came on, I craved crisps because there was this emotional connection. And I wasn't craving the crisps. I was craving the connection with my dad.
Wow.
And it's linking that. Like, I'm not going to get that back, but I can think of the gratitude of memories I had with him and having my family around me still and being able to give back to them. So it's looking at the sweet tooth. Is it a glucose management thing? Is it an emotional thing going on? And actually, like, we can improve it by upping our protein levels 9 times out of 10. That will help a lot because it's usually down to glucose management and fatigue as a result. Or even dehydration as well. So
things that you've mentioned there, really big things.
Yeah. Kelly's asked, what top 3 tips do you have for healthy living? I think balancing your blood glucose, sleep at the same time every night.
Just quickly tell that story, Ollie, if you've got time and if everyone else is happy for Ollie to mention, because you spoke to me about this, about the whole thing that, you have Sunday, you rest, your habits change, and then Monday morning, while we always
morning feeling,
oh my God, I can't move, I don't want to go to work. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
So our body is very tightly regulated and our organs are regulated by a thing called circadian rhythm, our body clock. And it's supposed to be where we rise with the sun, we sleep with the sun. Like thousands of years ago, like our ancestors used to do that. Like when there wasn't electricity, that wasn't thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, when there wasn't electricity, like candlelight and stuff, there was low blue light. And it was something which we would have this regular, like we weren't in this stressful world where we had to be at work at 7 or 8 until 6 or 7 at night, or that we were constantly connected on social media and internet. But say we wake up at 6 a.m. on a Monday morning, feel a bit groggy and like you try to get started in the work. You prepare your work, you go through your routine, you have your lunchtime, you got your morning breakfast and stuff. Then you go into the evening and you get to sleep about 10 p.m. Now, the next day, on Tuesday, you do it the same and you start to feel a tiny bit better. You do it the same on Wednesday, you start to feel good. Thursday, you feel really good. Friday comes and you've got that 6 a.m. start and you feel, yes, the weekend's coming. So what happens on a Friday night, maybe we have the takeaway because we're celebrating the week. I remember it used to be when I worked at Aviva that we'd constantly go to the pub on a Friday night and I'd get belittled for not going. Well, we need to do better at your job. I was like, hang on, I'm not going to the pub's not going to change what I do in my job. But like just having those toxins on that Friday night to celebrate the stressful week Then we go to bed at like 11, 12 o'clock because we haven't got to get up the next morning. So the Saturday, we get up at 7, 8 o'clock. Then we might have breakfast a little bit later. It's brunch. And we'll have some like more processed stuff. Or maybe we don't have breakfast. We go out for lunch with mates, grab a coffee, grab a couple of muffins and some cakes or something at the coffee shop. And then in the evening, we might do it again. And we'll have
Sunday
some more
roast.
drinks. Yeah, like extra wine and everything like that.
Roast potatoes.
And all the roast potatoes. Then on Sunday morning, we get up a little bit later, we have a massive old roast, and then we try and sleep at 10 o'clock. But our body is essentially socially jet lagged. It's an actual condition, social jet lag. And we're basically getting this window of like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. through the week. And then we're moving it as if we're in another time zone for 2 days and then trying to get it back. Now, our body clock actually works, I believe it's 24.2 hours. So we already have to kind of consolidate and break down that 0.2 hours with our circadian rhythm. And in the actual day going around the earth, there's only 24 hours, right? But our body clock is 24.2. And excuse me, there's a great book on it called Circadian Code, I think it is, by Dr. Sachin Panda. And it talks so much in depth about this stuff and just how we have to absorb these things. And it's where, like, if we can get to bed at the same time, our body knows it. And it's not to say that occasionally, like, say you're going out like one night every few weeks or something, or like having a late night, like an hour here or there isn't going to be that different. But if you're doing it week in, week out, that could be one of the causes of burnout. And like, what do we do in bed? Like, we start scrolling through and all that sort of stuff. And then we're wide awake and we're not getting deep levels of sleep. And there's so many things we could look into. I don't think we've got the time to go on to sleep in this, but like, sleep is one of the biggest things that I deal with people. And when we start getting people sleeping through the night, from the last round, we're going to talk about the revitalization blueprint that I've got. And one of the people that done it before, we had our actual module on sleep, and it was about half an hour module we had. And basically that it was so, like, she said, wow, I'm sleeping through the night. She was one of those people, like, I've not been able to sleep through the night so much. That she'd had that PCOS and the symptoms were a lot more under control. And I'm like, that is a powerful, powerful story just from someone sleeping through the night and then eating a little bit better. So it's like, and again, like Joe's asked about restless legs, any advice? That first off, like, making sure we're getting the right nutrients in our diet, as in good blood glucose management and stress management. Someone mentioned about magnesium. Magnesium can help, but like, don't take too much of it. Like, there's different forms of magnesium, but I would like experiment with which magnesium works best for you. Like, having like Epsom salt baths, like magnesium salt baths, can help. But I think like one of the big things with restless legs is it circulation? So are you getting cold hands and feet as well? And then as a result, if we're getting cold hands and feet, our hands and feet are at the extremes of our body. So they have gravity working with them. And if we're getting cold hands and feet, that's a sign we're not getting good blood flow there. So chances are we're not getting good blood flow, then we're getting restless legs as a result. And like, it can mean that we then get like athlete's foot, we get fungal growth and all these sorts of things. But think about the other extreme of our body, our brain. That doesn't have gravity working towards it. So we're not going to get the blood flow there. And with blood becomes nutrient delivery, clears out waste. Like, it's very, very powerful to get good routine. And how do we do that? We look at movement, we look at the right level of exercise. And as we said about as well, like with exercise, like with you, like talking about yourself with doing all the classes, if you're doing 2 classes back to back, like, make sure you're fueled for it. So I know so many people that will do 2 classes, 3 classes. And can you get away with it? Ideally, they would be better spread out, as we know, during the week. But if that's the only time you've got, like, make sure you're fueled. Like, get plenty of protein in. Have a little snack between the classes. Get your fuel in and make sure your stress is managed the rest of the day.
Absolutely. You mentioned the blueprint, the revitalization. Yep. Do you want to obviously expand on that? Because obviously, when I spoke about this in all my posts the last couple of weeks, sent out the emails to all you guys, we emphasized that this was a stepping stone for you to kind of learn what causes us to not feel our best. And Ollie, if you want to elaborate on that, mate, with
Yeah.
your revitalization and what we can offer people.
So what I've got is that Matt came to me and said, like, what can we do to like help you guys in the group? And I said, well, I've got this group program that I want to get launched again. I could launch it like specifically to your guys first, and then we'll get some good knowledge in there. So the revitalization blueprint is it's a call every 2 weeks as a group, but then throughout we have a little bit of a comment section, and we'll do a messenger group as well where we keep each other accountable. But the comment section on the actual platform with the group will allow you to have comments and put comments on videos. There's around 2 years worth of video footage of different lives that I've done split up into sections. But the things that we're going to look at doing, so having a call, and again, we're looking at doing it on Wednesday nights, and it will start on the 3rd of May. But the topics I've got here, like the 4-pillar method to allow you to eat healthy anywhere, even on the road. How to sleep deeply without popping pills or herbal sleep aids. Find the perfect diet that's unique to you and your health goals. Like functional medicine, how to understand what's actually going on with your body and the glucose, and we'll go deeper into glucose. Optimizing hormones for men and women. How to thrive with emotional eating. How to detox to drop fat. Allergies and intolerances, how you can tell the difference. Like, should you add in supplements? How to master stress. How to beat the bloat. Like, do you really have thyroid problems? There's so many topics, but the
There's
goal
some
is
really
to
good stuff in there. Sorry to butt in, Ollie. There's some really good stuff in there, mate, because as I say, you sent it to me to look over before doing all this, and the amount of knowledge that you can pick up, you know, learning about brain fog, learning about what the right things are to fuel your body. And if you implement these changes to your life, I guarantee that you're going to make positive changes to how you feel on a regular basis. And I think this is what it was all about, really, is giving you guys more knowledge, because like we said at the start, we are uneducated. A lot of us do not know what we need to do to feel our best and be the healthiest we possibly can. And I think we all, if we don't feel 100%, we go to the doctor, we think we need extra sleep, but we don't always know the root of the cause, and this stuff can help you.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely good to, you can have the odd glass of wine, someone said about on that, but I will talk about alcohol on there. And but I don't drink, hold my hands up with that, because I don't like the taste of alcohol. But if I like the taste of it, I would have a drink every now and then. But it's being aware of what's the occasional drink. So I spoke to someone a while back and she said, I can't cut alcohol out. And I said, are you saying you can't or won't? Because if you can't, that's something we need to talk deeper at. If you won't, that's different, because that's a choice. If it's can't, then it's your body craving it so much, and we have to look at why. So it's having the odd glass of wine, but if we're having wine to lower stress. So I had a client who was in Minneapolis, one of those ones beginning with M, but one of the ones in the US. But he was always working late and then going to the bar and having a few beers before he got home. And we couldn't figure out why. And then I was talking about his relationship and diving into that, and he was not happy with his girlfriend at the time. Now, I'm not saying you need to leave your partners, but he left his partner and he literally stopped having to go to the bar. So he could go home and he was happy, he wasn't getting triggered, rather than going to the bar, having a few beers to wait until she'd gone to bed, so he really didn't have to spend much time with her. So he would then have the odd beer here and there, like the social beers and stuff like that. If your body is massively inflamed, and this is where it would be more one-to-one work, I would say, rather than a group program. If your body is massively inflamed, there may be a time where you have to cut alcohol out. I'm not going to like try and lie about that stuff. If you're in a certain place and this food is causing a lot of inflammation, just like gluten maybe, that sort of thing, or dairy or whatever it is, we may have to cut that out. But we want to get people in a world where you can enjoy food when you go out. You know what tips to do to not have to, if you're going out every single night, maybe we have to have a bit more restriction. But if you're going out once a week and you're having this social gathering, is that event actually not going to de-stress you more than the food that you have is going to stress you? So we actually fit it into the bigger picture. And if your body is functioning effectively with detoxification, if your body is functioning effectively with being able to sleep and recover, we're not really going to like stress ourselves out too much. And I think like the goal with this program is that yes, I've got these topics, but as a community, as a group, if we have a topic that we want to cover, and you have a question that you want to have asked anonymously, you can email us and ask this question. We'll do the call and we'll answer the question. We won't say, oh, this is what Matt asked. We'll say, this is what someone asked, if it's something a bit more personal. But we can move the topics around. If people want to talk more about detox in the second call, we can talk about detox in the second call. If there's something that is completely not on there, then we can put that in there earlier. And it's the goal is to have these calls, which are all going to be recorded, and then they're put up within a couple of days in the actual membership group. So you can watch the replays and you can actually see what we're actually going to do in order to, like, if you're not there, and ask questions afterwards as well. Now, we've said it's going to start on the 3rd of May. Now, obviously, that's 2 weeks away from today. It's £21 a month to get in there. But if you sign up before now, you actually get access to my 21-day brain fog blitz. And we were talking about this with your challenge, weren't we? That it will be really beneficial for people doing the challenge and people that aren't doing the challenge, which is it's 17 different videos, and they're not 20, 25 minutes long. They're about 5-10 minute long, easy to implement. On the surface level, talking about nutrition, talking about some of the topics that will be covered in the revitalization blueprint, but you get access to that as well. So that offer is on when the 3rd of May hits. Anyone that signs up after that then doesn't get the brain fog blitz course as well. But anyone that gets it before, as a thank you for signing up, like, yes, you can ask questions in the messenger group and stuff like that beforehand, but you also get the brain fog blitz course as well. So it's very, very beneficial for people. But we're going to make this up as we go along, but if we have to make up topics to fulfill what's needed as a group, then we will change where they're going around to make sure it's what people need.
Absolutely. I think that's right. I mean, health is such an important topic. You know, it's something that we don't all take seriously at times. And I think if we can get on top of what's going wrong for each person or what's not functioning, we can correct and we can improve the way we feel. 100%. So, yeah.
I think, so if anyone does want to have more information about this, you can go to revitalizationblueprint.com. So
shall I stick that in the messenger group?
Stick it in the messenger. I'll stick it. Oh, hang on. I'll put it in.
I'll stick it in the messenger group and I'll pop it on an email to everybody next week. So if you want to kind of have a look at Ollie's page.
And if you want to ask questions as well, like I will say as well that sometimes, like with its group stuff and we've got something a little bit more in depth, I've had a couple of people reach out regarding one-to-one, message me, because I am also doing like, it's not low price stuff. Like it's going to get you results, but I am doing at half price of what I do for 10 people, like 5 in May or 5 in April, 5 in May, like no more than 5 people a month for people that are on Matt's programs. So if you do want any one-to-one stuff, message me. And if it's the right thing to be in the group, I'll point you in that direction. If I think you're going to get results in the group, if you're on one-to-one, you'll get access to the group as well anyway. So it's a win-win with that. But honestly, like at £21 with the revitalization blueprint, it works so well synergistically, because we were talking about this, as we say, like yourself, Matt, doing so many classes, doing your 18 classes a week, you've got to fuel for them.
Yeah.
What's the point of doing these classes?
Exactly.
So many people will just be like banging their head against a brick wall where I'm doing 5 classes a week. Why am I not getting results? And it might be that we change some of the impact of the classes, that like we suggest maybe you do an online Pilates one, as we said about, or like you do a lower impact one and choose them.
Meditation as well, Ollie. Meditation for well-being, breathing techniques, you know.
One thing that I'm going to be doing in this group after a month or two is actually getting some experts in. Like I know a lot of people that can do guided meditation, that I know a lot about this stuff. I know a lot about how the mind works. I've done a lot about it on myself, but actually getting people that are good friends of mine that I've actually worked with, that some of them are local, like hypnotherapists, to talk about their expertise, not to pitch you on certain things, but to actually give you guided meditations when they're in here, to work on the vagus nerve, to work on like positive psychology, because so many times we look at health as exercise. So many times we look at health as going on a diet, but health is how our overall life feels and the pressure we have on it. So once we balance everything, like we get so much further ahead. Definitely.
No, 100%. I mean, if you're interested in any of this, which we hope you are, because as I say, the advice is phenomenal. You know, you can really make changes with this. You can message me, you can message Ollie, you can message in the group chat, which we've got set up. You can email. If you're watching this on Facebook, you can comment below the video. Anything really. We want to help you guys feel your best. And you know, obviously, me working in the fitness industry, your health is a goal of mine. I want you to feel your best. And obviously, with Ollie's expertise in his field, all his knowledge over the years, I'm confident that you can improve the way you feel.
Oh, definitely. And I'll just say that because we're running out of time now with answering questions. Yeah. If I haven't answered the question, Claire, you've sent me a direct message. Can you send me that on Facebook, and I'll send you a voice note with what I like think with my opinion on the answer of that. And like any questions that we have got on there, as we said, that you've asked here that we haven't had time to answer, or any questions about the group. But we want to make this to help you guys. And like Matt said, he's going to be learning from it as well and implementing. So you'll get better classes as a result. Yeah.
Brilliant, mate.
Cool.
So I think that's everything then. So I think, wow, I mean, we've been going on an hour and 15 minutes now, which is, I don't know where the time's gone. It's gone so quick. I hope you've all enjoyed what we've had to say. I hope you've learned a few things. And if you want to learn more, you know what to do. Drop me or Ollie a message, send us an email, and we'll be happy to connect you with his revitalization platform. I can't even say the word. Okay, so thank you for watching. I'm going to end this now. Take care, and hopefully we'll speak to you very, very soon. Ollie, thanks for being here, mate.
My pleasure. And I look forward to hopefully speaking to so many of you and being able to learn more about what's going on, and fingers crossed help some as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care.